so I wouldn't soak my underarms with nervous sweat during a science speech. And one sailed out as I motioned to my display board. At home, peeling the paper strips and sticking the pads in my shirt, it seemed ingenious. Why had no one thought of this before? But as soon as I started to speak, I could feel the right one loosen and slip with every small gesture. I tried to keep my arm clutched tight to my side, soldier-like. Just because an organism is one-celled doesn't mean it is dull and uninteresting. Finally, I had no choice but to flip the page of my board, and down the mini pad shot like a toboggan on an icy slope, landing on the floor in white, feminine hygiene victory. The crowds roared. So, I became quiet. This seemed the safe thing to do when embarrassments hunted me like a stalker hunts a former lover. Again, my mother tried her wisdom on me. "Laugh it off," she said. "Everyone else is too busy trying to forget their own humiliations to remember yours. You're no different than anyone else. Why do you think that years later we still have dreams that we went to school and forgot to get dressed?" And again, this might be true. Still, it seems to me that if I get a pimple, it will be right in the middle of my forehead like an Indian bindi, and if the answer is spermatozoa, I'm the one that will be called on. I've just found that it's best to lie low. Quiet people, I can tell you, usually have friends who play the violin way, way too well, and know that continental drift isn't another way you can get your coffee at Starbucks. My friend Karen Jen won the youth math extravaganza. I noticed that the bold letters on the sweatshirt she got spelled "Why me," but I didn't mention this to her. And Sarah Elliott and I became friends in PE because the V-sit was the highlight of our gymnastics ability. Last winter, Sarah made a wild pass of her basketball and whacked Miss Thronson of girls' state volleyball championship fame on the back of the head. 1 minute, there was Miss Thronson, her shoulders as big as the back of a dump truck, blowing her whistle, "Beep!" And the next minute, bam! She was down on her knees as if praying for forgiveness for making us do that unit on wrestling. Sometimes you don't know your own strength. If you are kind, or were one of my friends in the pre-donut days, you've cringed for me over the years, sending supportive thoughts with a glance. But maybe, just maybe, when it is my turn to read aloud in English class, because reading aloud means that Mrs. Forrester can grade papers rather than really teach, you also notice that my voice is clearer and stronger than you thought it would be. When I read Fitzgerald, when I read the part about the light at the end of Gatsby's dock, you can see that Mrs. Forrester puts down her red pen and pauses with her coffee cup halfway to her lips, her eyebrows knitted slightly in a look of the softest concentration. That's when you wonder if there might be more to me. More than the glimpse of my coat flying out behind me as I escape out the school doors toward home. At least, that's what I hope you think. Maybe you're just thinking about what you're going to have for lunch. Old Anna B., one of the casserole queens, told me the same thing once, that there was more to me. She took one finger, knobby from years of gardening, and tapped my temple, looking me long in the eyes when she said it so that I would be sure to take in her meaning. I liked the way it sounded, as if I lead a life of passion and adventure, the stuff of a good book of fiction, just no one knows it. It sounded like I have secret depths. And I guess, for one summer, just one summer, maybe it was true. I did have passion and adventure in my life, the stuff of the books at the 9 Mile Falls Library where my mother works. Summer, after all, is a time when wonderful things can happen to quiet people. For those few months, you're not required to be who everyone thinks you are, and that cut grass smell in the air and the chance to dive into the deep end of a pool give you a courage you don't have the rest of the year. You can be graceful and easy with no eyes on you and no past. Summer just opens the door and lets you out. It was nearly summer, though school wasn't let out yet, when I got that brief glimpse of Travis Becker's motorcycle on the long lawn of the Becker estate. I had walked home by myself that day, instead of with my friend Sydney, as I usually do. Sydney has lived next door to me forever. We both have movies of us when we were babies, sitting in one of those blow-up wading pools, screaming our heads off. We're only screaming because of those bathing